The GT America powered by AWS season has boiled down to the final 2 races of the year. George Kurtz wrapped up the GT3 title at Sebring 2 weeks ago, but in GT4, no fewer than 4 drivers are within 19 points of one another with just 80 minutes of racing left in the season to settle the championship. Hello and welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a pleasure to have your company. My name is Ryan Marine. Bob Varsha and Calvin Fish are alongside, and Amanda Busick is down in the pit lane. This is the first of 2 races this weekend to conclude the 2022 campaign for GT America powered by AWS. 2 40-minute sprints featuring GT3, GT2, and GT4 machinery. And so much on the line, Calvin, especially in the GT4 class.
Yeah, very much so. In SRO 3, George Kurtz has clinched that championship on the back of 7 victories this year. Superb run for him. But in GT4, as you mentioned, so many drivers still in the hunt. We've got 5 drivers within 25 points. And then there's a dropped event to account for as well. And that tightens up even further with just a 19-point spread. So this race today really sets up Championship Sunday here.
Let's look at the starting lineup for the first of 2 races this weekend. Jeff Burton has inherited the overall pole. A technical infraction for George Kurtz and the Riley Motorsports crew has him from pole position now back to the back of the GT3 field. Kyle Washington, great qualifying effort. He'll start on the outside of row 1. The 2 Jasons, Harward and Daskalos, make up row 2. Andy Pilgrim, the veteran, and CJ Moses in row 3. And as mentioned, George Kurtz in row number 4. Then back to the GT4 field. Ross West, so impressive in qualifying. He's on pole. Championship aspirant Adam Adelson alongside. Then Elias Sabo, who's been on a hot streak as of late, in 3rd. Seth Lucas in 4th. Custodio Toledo and Jason Bell, they're row number 3. Moisey Uretsky and Rob Holland in row 4. Jay Logan, Todd Coleman in row 5. Gray Newell back in the championship after sitting out Sebring. Big crash for him at Road America some months ago. He'll have Scott Noble alongside in the second to last row, and Nick Shanny at the back of the GT4 field. Bob, you were with me for GT America in Nashville. That was a tight, twisty street course. The Indy Road course, somewhat different.
Yes, in fact, the weather conditions are much different as well. We were boiling in Nashville, but here we've got crisp autumn temperatures. The leaves are changing. It's championship season. Time to run for a title with the first of 2 races to wind up the season. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I would come to Indianapolis to watch somebody walk their dog. This is going to be a whole lot better than that.
And you mentioned the weather. The temperature very cool here today. And Calvin, it's important to note that unlike Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, the GT America Series, no tire warmers, so these first few laps could be quite something.
Yeah, very much so. You're going to try and generate as much tire temperature you can on these formation laps, and you'll see them weaving around a little bit, but really the ideal way to do it is really ride the brake and the gas pedal at the same time. That builds heat up through the upright, through the braking system, into the wheel itself, and ultimately the tires. So preparing is really key, as we see George Kurtz there on the back foot a little bit, celebrating a championship at the last race weekend at Sebring, but very fast qualifying time this morning, just sensational, a mid-23, but didn't pass post-qualifying tech, so he's got a little bit of work to do. It could be fun, though, to watch him come through.
We've seen him do it before, yes, coming from the back to the front, and he'll look to do that without the pressure of a championship to have to balance here today, having wrapped that up at Sebring. Did mention there are GT2 cars here this weekend. CJ Moses has the lone GT2 machine in this race. That's back in the 3rd row, an Audi from the GMG Racing Staples. That car is wicked fast in a straight line. It'll be fun to watch how he mixes it up with the rest of the GT3 field that are all coming to take the start together out of turn 14 on this 2.44-mile road course layout at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It will be the GT3 and GT2 cars to take the green flag first. A separate start for the GT4 machines. The green flag waves. A great jump for Jeff Burton. The fight, though, is on for the second spot. That is Jason Harward right there in the second position. He's got Jason Daskalos behind. Kyle Washington from the outside of the front row. He's dropped back, and they go 3 wide in 1.
Yeah, no one quite had that front tire temperature where they need it, and they just washed out a little bit there on the entry to the corner.
Big loser appeared to be Washington, who got off in the grass and had to relinquish several positions. Now to GT4, Ross West. That's the black and red Aston at the center of the screen, starting from pole. Adam Adelson, though, he needs to go, go, go. He's got the championship within his sights. Sabo bails. He takes the shortcut there and will settle back in line. 3 and 4 wide further back in the pack.
Yeah, I think he just got in the ABS. Car got a bit twitchy on him, just took to that escape route as we go full course yellow.
Full course yellow. And we'll take a look at what happened here in just a moment, but that breaks off what was setting up to be a frantic start, especially in the GT4 ranks. Looks like Kyle Washington was able to recover from that off-track moment, but he is well down the order and is costly for him after a great qualifying effort to start second.
Boy, that GT4 field proved you don't need a million cars to go 5 wide on the front straightaway at Indy. That's pretty exciting stuff.
Here we go. This was Washington off track, and this might have been what brought out the red flag as he rejoins. Stops there on the track. Frightening moments there for the field as they come through. You could see George Kurtz already up a couple of positions. And Washington is making his way into the pits early on in this 40-minute sprint.
They have a tire go down or something?
Not sure if he got hit by Howard or not. He sort of like made a brave move to the outside.
You see those flames on the left side down just above the diffuser. I saw that on the pace lap before the start. I thought, okay, it'll blow out, extinguish itself once we get up to racing speeds, but it has not. Somebody needs to have a look at that.
Quickly.
With a fire extinguisher nearby.
Kyle does bring that car to the attention of the GMG racing crew, and they'll have a quick look over that machine, but not the way he dreamed up this race, having had that excellent starting position. You can see the crew is there, fire bottle in hand, and that's the signal. I think this could be day over early here for Kyle Washington, unless they're able to find an easy fix to whatever this problem might be.
That doesn't look promising.
This is just the first of several races this weekend for Kyle. He'll be taking part in the Indianapolis 8-hour in a similar Porsche chassis.
Great start there by Jeff Burton. Just took off like a scalded cat, left the others to kind of try and get through that first corner. It looked like Jason Howard really didn't get the grip he was looking for. Washington went to his outside, and Dasklos almost took advantage to get by both of them there. Ultimately ended up in P2 as we get ready for a reset.
George Kurtz, though, how about that from the back of the field? Up several positions, 3 in fact already, to slot into the 4th spot. Now the safety car here to reset the field, bring those gaps back down, and he's got his eyes on the front of the pack, and yet another race win in what has been a remarkable season for George Kurtz.
It truly has. He's on form. You know, he's got that confidence back. He's got that strut that he had way back in 2017 when he won that GTSA championship. And he's just really, this move to Riley Motorsports has just given him a car that he's really comfortable with.
Has a chance to clinch another championship, the Pro-Am title in Fanatec GT as part of the Indy 8-hour. We're back to green after a brief stoppage, still nearly 36 minutes left. And much like the initial start, Jeff Burton has taken off and stolen a march in the rest of the pack. Daskalos now fighting on the inside, and he's got Jason Harwood. It's a different chassis here for Jason this weekend. He's been running the Lamborghini for much of the year. They've got that chassis set for the 8-hour, so he's in Audi colors here this weekend.
Yeah, see how they stack up here. George there, as you can see, slotted into the 4th position, but certainly for Burton, he's taken off here in the early going. Harwood and Daskalos side by side. This is turn 7.
Oh, you see that set of bumps just before the turn in. So the car's getting out of shape.
His tires still aren't quite there. It looks like Kurtz's car is coming alive a little bit quicker than the 2 Audis, and he pounces there immediately. Gets around Daskalos. Daskalos has an issue. He's pulled off to the side there trying to regroup, but he's definitely got some kind of technical issue with the car right now.
It's Harwood actually with the technical issue, and yes, he is off the pace. That's bad for his hopes. He still had a chance at 2nd in points, depending on how things shook out here this weekend in GT3, and especially if he can't make it to the 70% mark, might not score any points in this race unless they can get this issue resolved.
And I'm assuming, I haven't spoken to them why they've chosen to run the Audi. I assume they just want to keep the Lamborghini in good shape for the 8-hour event that they're running. He and Jason Daskelos are actually in the same car together there, along with Seth Lucas, who's in this race as well.
Yeah, that's right. All three of those drivers that will share the Lamborghini tomorrow for the 8-hour in different cars and in some cases different classes. In fact, here is Seth Lucas in the GT4 Supra. You can see him popping out of line to the inside of Elias Sabo. This is a battle for a podium position, and the youngster
Sabo with
Lucas,
braking issues again, and just nails Adam Adelson, and he's one of the championship contenders there. He had braking issues on the opening lap. They're trying to get it down into turn 1, and another one right there. I'm not sure if there's an ABS issue because he had the brakes, tires fully locked there, and just T-bones Adam Adelson out of the way.
Oh, this is massive for Adelson, who came in tied for the points lead in the GT4 class. Sabo also had been running strong as of recent races, but some kind of a braking issue, and that is a major impact.
That is huge. See the rest of the field kind of slip through there, and one of those is Jason Bell, who has the championship lead. And was on the back foot a little bit here this weekend based on his qualifying speed and where he was running in the race.
It's a big break for Bell, who now finds himself up in third, I believe, due to that attrition. Didn't qualify well, but got through the carnage. Will hope to take advantage of the misfortune for one of his championship rivals, Adelson. Uretsky and Schwest are the other two to keep an eye on, and Schwest is doing what he needs to do to keep his hopes alive, sitting back, or currently leading the race, but fourth in points, still very much in striking distance.
Now we stay green, so it seems like both cars have got out of harm's way, and I think any debris may be to the outside of the corner. Let's take another look at this. Kurtz is off. Daskelos gets back around him. Lars Schultes through as well, who now sits in P3 on the road.
George Kurtz, who is pursuing his 9th win of the season. It would be a 3rd straight victory should he pull it off. But he's stuck in some traffic now after that off. He made a few passes. Now he'll have to make them again.
If that off for George Kurtz happened after the collision, we're going to see some more action down there in turn 1 because one of the cars was leaking a fluid. You could see as they pulled off up onto the banking. I think Sabo's car is hard to combat, but it's also leaving fluid on the track.
Seems like George is a little out of sync. I think he's got pace, but he's got nowhere to put it right now. He's just got to escape clear of that, tucks it to the inside of Merkel. Merkel slides back across his nose, and he's just out of rhythm. He's kind of half a step out of sync with making these moves right now.
Schultes tried the move on Daskelos into turn 12, and that backed him up. Brought George Kurtz into the mix. He tried the move, and that didn't work out either. So Daskelos now able to sprint ahead. Here comes Kurtz looking to the inside of Schultes one more time. Mercedes up against the Callaway Corvette, the C7 GT3.
See that again? You know what I mean? He's just out of rhythm. He's not just timing his moves right now. He's a little bit out of sync and trying to make this nice and clean, and he's allowing Burton just to escape down the road here. Nearly 9 seconds to the good. Just talk about George in terms of his racecraft this year, how that's improved and how he's got the confidence back. He and Harwood put on 2 tremendous races at Sebring just 2 weeks ago. Fierce battles for the lead, back and forth. Right now with this qualifying position that he ended up with. Now Merkel slides to the inside of Daskelos. Now you see it again. George is in the wrong place at the wrong time, it seems like, right now in these opening laps.
Great move, though, from Schultes. Incisive to the inside of Daskelos, who's now coming under pressure from Kurtz once again. Tough place to get the move made, and Daskelos keeps him at bay, though Kurtz still right there on the doorstep.
Daskelos really compromised his entry there. Is going to open up, and now Daskelos going to try and swing back across. Gives him room. Smart move there by Jason.
And it's a remarkable story just to have this Daskelos car on the grid this weekend. That car is operated out of Nick Short's shop, which is down in Sarasota, Florida. And as we all know, so many in the Florida region impacted by Hurricane Ian. Their impact, it wasn't too bad, but they did lose power for several days, and they had some repairs to do to that car after Sebring. that put them behind the 8 ball. So great work by that crew to get the car ready to go. They had a new livery planned for it, didn't have the time to get the vinyl installed. So it's out and running, and they're making the most of their unfortunate situation.
Now they'll be debuting that new livery next year.
That's true, although Nick Short said that they have some big plans that could involve a brand new GT3 car or 2, possibly in the Fanatec GT Championship when I was chatting with him before. Not sure I'm at liberty to share much more than that, but if things fall into place the way that Nick hopes they will, it's a very exciting program that they've got in the works.
Ross West leading this race. He hasn't yet won this season, but he could really set himself up great for a final championship day, because right now with the drop point score and where they run with Jason in third, the championship leader, and him potentially winning this race, it would mean it would only be a 4-point deficit going into the final race of the weekend. So, and the championship, so it could really set him up nicely to potentially steal this championship away at the final wire here on Sunday.
He's been so consistent this season. Hasn't had the wins, like you say, but has consistently been in podium contention race after race, when many of his championship rivals have faltered at one time or another.
Kurtz's last lap. He's now getting into his stride here. He's escaped Daskalos there. Now he's got the hammer down. 125.2 compared to Jeff Burton's best lap of 125.3. I think if he gets by Schultes here pretty quickly, get into a rhythm, there's still quite a bit of time left on this clock. And then I'll be all about doing the math in terms of what sort of speed he has compared to our leader right now.
Change in the second position. George Kurtz makes it through. Beautiful braking maneuver into turn number 7. And now he sets off in hot pursuit of Jeff Burton, who inherited his pole. I'm sure that's how George looks at it. Yeah. He went out and he earned that pole. Technical infraction sent him to the back of the grid. And now he's got a chance to atone, but he's got an 11-second gap to overcome.
Well, he's got plenty of laps to work with, so we'll see here over the next lap or two. I think he's now going to get into a rhythm. He can hit his marks and maybe demonstrate the speed that he and that car have here this weekend. Certainly he had that technical infraction after qualifying. I'm not sure if that gave him any performance advantage or not in qualifying here this morning, but his lap time, 123.5, was sensational.
Good battles going on here in the GT4 ranks. Rob Holland, who came in with an outside shot at a championship in GT4, 5th in points coming in, only 19 back. He's leading this train of cars, but well down the order, still just 6th in class. That's not what he needs to make up ground with those that currently are ahead of him on points.
No, I'm sure he's a bit disappointed with the performance here this weekend with he and that Porsche. Gray Newell now trying to get by these two Porsches. He had a lap time disqualified this morning in that qualifying run, so it put him at the back of the pack for exceeding track limits. So good to see Gray back. He had to skip the last round of the championship at Sebring due to some avoidable contact at Road America in the previous championship round.
Well, driving for Heart of Racing, they just recently announced they're going to start a program for promising female drivers. They'll have what we used to call a gong show. Jack Roush, your old boss, Calvin, invites a bunch of drivers, puts them in cars, checks lap times and all the other things you want out of a racing driver. Heart of Racing as a team are going to do that with a select group of female drivers, and someone's going to get an opportunity. That's great to see.
An opportunity in one of these GT4 cars, as a matter of fact. Of course, they're active in GT3 racing here stateside, made their debut in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa. Noble slows on the track. He had just made the pass on Holland, and that is a big deal here. This, especially if this car can't make it back around and would be in a compromised position. Safety car at this stage would be huge for George Kurtz, who is laying down CrowdStrike fastest lap after CrowdStrike fastest lap in his pursuit of Jeff Burton.
Lucky there wasn't contact there, just happened at the right time. There was a bit of room for Great Newell to get around him, but unless he can do a Control-Alt-Delete and find some fire in that, we're probably going to see a yellow. And looking at the lap times last time around, George Kurtz was 1.5 seconds quicker than Jeff Burton, so that 11-second lead is now down to 9.5 seconds and less than that as we speak.
Oh boy, technical issues. There he goes. technical issues with these cars today.
Maybe a case of simply resetting the electronics. So often that's the fix. In some ways, it seems that would be more frustrating than your run-of-the-mill mechanical failure, something tangible, right? The electronic gremlins located somewhere in some software written by some engineer. Who knows where and who knows when.
Like you and your printer.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Oh, that hit a little too close to home.
Using the term printer loosely.
Let's hear more about George Kurtz here with Amanda.
Well, his last lap by, it was a 9.5-second gap between George Kurtz and Jeff Burton. I did talk to the team about the technical infraction. They said it was an air tube issue that they think might have been damaged in qualifying that led to like a hairpin kind of fracture in the tube that could have unsettled that. That's why George Kurtz had to start from the back of the grid. But guys, we've seen this time and time from George Kurtz. As you said, he was crossing over those CrowdStrike fastest laps, just one after the one. If there is someone on this grid that can target in to Jeff Burton, wouldn't you think that George Kurtz would be that candidate?
Absolutely, yeah. He's shown tremendous pace this year, Amanda, and we've talked about his confidence level being at a high. Moving to Riley Motorsports, they've got him a car that he is very comfortable in, GT America, and he and Colin Brown very much in with a shout of the Pro-Am Championship in Fanatec GT as well. So, been a brilliant season, but right now, that last lap wasn't the same sort of pace we saw from 2 or 3 laps ago. So, he's got to keep nailing these fast laps, otherwise he's not going to burn into that delta that he currently has to our leader, Burton.
He is a committed racer, is George Kurtz, CEO of CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity firm, a logo that you see everywhere in racing now, including here in the GT World Challenge America. It's also on the safety cars in Formula One, and on and on and on.
Next year, it will be the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa.
That's right.
That was announced back in July at this year's edition.
He became a partner of the McLaren Formula One team, and I interviewed him on my Formula One radio show and said, well, you know, when your secretary said McLaren Formula One is on the line, what did you do? He said, I answered it.
I would too.
Not intimidating at all, is George Kurtz.
Checking lap times, Burton, the last time by a 26.5. He's been very consistent in that range the last 2 or 3 laps. George Kurtz a little bit quicker, 25.8, less than a second, but still a substantial chunk. However, time is of the essence here, 21 minutes to go, and you can see they are in some GT4 traffic, and that might be the differentiating factor here.
Yeah, it's some of it's luck, but obviously timing that and just having the patience and the poise to not rush up on the cars and get them at the wrong spot on the track. You see Jeff Burton just coming down into the brake zone. You see George there, 4 cars back. He's got to try and clear these guys down into turn 1.
This
quite
is
close enough.
This is where his experience in multi-class racing comes in handy, especially relative to Jeff Burton, who has not done nearly as much. We've seen that really help George Kurtz in a number of races this season where traffic has been the deciding factor. In fact, one of the races at Sebring that comes to mind, he caught Jason Harwood because of how he managed traffic and ultimately made the pass for the lead and ultimately the win.
His timing's just been off. Some of, like that was luck. He just caught that car at the wrong point and really lost a lot of speed through that chicane, turn 5 and 6, to hustle down that backstretch. So I don't think he's going to really cut into Jeff Burton's lead on this lap, looking at it. In fact, he may actually lose some time.
This battle goes on in GT3. A lot happening in GT4 with the championship up for grabs. Schwest continues to lead, but it's only a second over Seth Lucas. Those two have been close together for several laps. Jason Bell has moved his way into 3rd. Lucas is not in the running for the points. He only joined this series halfway through the year after starting in Pirelli GT4 America, but both Schwest and Bell are players. Then you go down quite a ways. That's where you find Holland in 6th in class. Moise Uretsky, who's also a contender. He's dropped, on the last lap, dropped 2 spots. He's down to 10th in class, would only score a single point. And we know already that Adam Adelson will not score points today because of the incident he had when he was hit by Elias Sabo. So This could really winnow the field down heading into the final race of the season on Sunday.
Yeah, it's certainly going to put Schwest in great shape to challenge Jason Bell. But Jason Bell, despite he hasn't seen victory lane since St. Petersburg, round 2, opening rounds of the championship season. So it's been a bit of a drought for him. He's coming off a championship year last year where he was pretty much unbeatable for the last couple of months.
So this, though, despite the fact that Seth Lucas is not in the hunt himself, this is an important battle with the championship in mind. The difference between a win for Schwest, 25 points, and second, should Lucas get by, 18 points. That's a 7-point swing, and Jason Bell would love to see it if he doesn't have the pace himself to challenge Ross up at the front.
Yeah, as I said, as they run right now, I think that would be a 4-point lead for Jason going into tomorrow. So if Schwest could sweep the weekend, even if Jason was second, that would not be enough. So you're right. Seth Lucas' ability to chase down our leader could really help out Jason Bell's cause here.
And the misfortune for Adelson and the poor run for Uretsky that basically has them out of the mix, barring any kind of unforeseen circumstances, yes?
Really strange with Sabo because he's been so on it of late. Had a great win at Sebring, just been on top form. He and Andy Lee have really been performing in GT4 America. And we saw that weird thing happen under braking for the opening corner of the race where he had to dive to the pit out to avoid contact there, and then just lock up with a car that's fitted with ABS was a little bit strange. I wonder if he had a technical issue he was trying to fight there.
I'm inclined to agree. This is the fight for the GT4 lead.
I just think you got to feel like a baby for Seth Lucas having driven that Lamborghini here in practice this weekend. He's going to be competing in the Indy 8 Hour with the Zelus team aboard a Lamborghini Huracan.
How do you think that transition does go, though? Because, yes, the Huracan, the GT3 car, it has more power, but it also makes more downforce. The driver aids are more sophisticated than you see in GT4. In some ways, you're going from a car that does a lot of things for you in the GT3 car back to a GT4, which is closer to its road-going version. Which transition do you think is the easier one to make?
Well, I think getting back into the car that he knows well, it kind of moves you to a different level. You know what I mean? You're used to handling this brute car of the Lamborghini, then you get back into something that you're very familiar with. And I think you just feel, this feels like fun. This feels really good. So there's that initial transition back into the first lap, just braking points and stuff like that. But I think Seth Lucas is certainly demonstrating that he's got great pace here today, and he's going to keep Schwest on his toes.
Solid drive that's gone somewhat unheralded to this point. How about Gray Newell? Started 11th, up to 4th in the GT4 class and running some good lap times. He's a ways behind Bell, though, nearly 7 seconds.
Well, Jerks Kurtz here has gone from about 7.5 seconds behind Jeff Burton to 3.7. Burton had a lap at 129 to Kurtz's 125. Must be traffic.
Traffic, I think, Bob. Yeah, he had a ton of traffic on that lap, which really hurt him. That's a massive delta of nearly 4 seconds.
Really?
Now, George Kurtz himself is caught out by some of that same traffic. That is Gray Newell that he's working his way past. And again, some of it's just the pure luck of where you catch that GT4 car. There are some places it's pretty easy to make your way by, given the speed differential between the two classes.
And you get frustrated, and that then affects your driving. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I keep catching these guys in the wrong places, and you get out of sync, and rather than just finding your rhythm again. So we saw that early on. It was very frustrating opening few laps for George when he was trying to get through those other GT3 cars. But now we can see Burton down the road here. That could be the perfect car for him to really focus forward and try and close that gap.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Once he can see Burton ahead of the road, that would be a revelation to him.
And even in traffic that last time by, Kurtz still was about 0.3 of a second clear of the lap time Burton put down. Oh, it's heating up in GT4. Ross Schwest, he knows how important this race win is. Never mind the fact he just wants to win this year. Hasn't done that to this point, despite coming close. But his championship hopes may rest on holding on for another 15 minutes over one of the hard chargers in this series, Seth Lucas.
Yeah, that Toyota is really handling well. You can see it just cutting through these corners really nicely. Minimum fuss. The Aston Martin's using a bit more of the road, and now he's starting to probe a little bit. He's feeling it right now, Seth Lucas is.
Behind these two, Jason Bell runs third. Amanda, what's the story on Jason?
Well, I think Jason will probably be pretty happy with where he finds himself so far. He started P6 on the grid, and I talked to Jason in Sebring, actually, and he didn't mince words on his qualifying efforts this year, just said he hasn't been able to find the pace that he's needed. We also talked to him in Sebring coming off of a disappointing Road America for himself. We talked about how the adjusted points will happen. That will be the worst weekend so far for Jason, so I'm sure he'll look to forget that not only in his memory, but also in this point situation. But I want to go back to last year. Jason came in here and he was in the battle for this GT4 along with Sean Quinlan. Jason ended up getting the win, the championship right here. So knowing coming into this race just what a special place Indy is in wanting to defend this championship and lock it up yet again.
Thanks, Amanda. Tight moment into turn one. And this is all happening in front of George Kurtz. Once again, catching traffic. He's balked through turns 2, 3, and 4 here. Lucas was close, but he didn't have a whole lot of room to work with, did he?
No, he didn't, and that move by Lucas down into turn 1 was really, really tight. I mean, he was being super civil, I think, to Ross West in not forcing that issue a little bit more, but Ross was making his intentions clear. He's not going to give up this race win easily.
Well, that's something we've not really seen out of Ross, but he got the elbows out there, and he was defending vigorously. He knows what's at stake.
Kurtz, he can see Burton now.
2.2.
Key is going to be traffic.
There they are, right in the picture together.
Battles for the lead in both classes. About 2 seconds apart. 12 minutes, nearly 13 minutes to go. Let's check the gap here at the yard of Briggs. Burton to Kurtz. It came down 0.7 of a second. Kurtz is closing.
Yeah, he's right there. For Burton, it's been a bit of a roller coaster year for Jeff. Switched teams mid-season. He's had his fair share of incidents, unfortunately, but this would really be some salve to the wound if he could bring this home. See that Mercedes just always so compliant over the curb, just really doesn't get unsettled, maintains the footprint of the tire, gives him the grip and the confidence. Lamborghini is always a little bit more edgy looking, isn't it, compared to that Mercedes?
Burton seeking his first win of the season. He finished second in points in this championship 1 year ago. A couple of wins, 3 in fact, including 1 overall. But he's got his hands full now. The champion-elect, George Kurtz, has arrived on the scene with 12 minutes to go. Takes a look to the inside. Will he force the issue?
Yeah, that was bold. That was more decisive. I like that. We didn't see that from George in the early laps here when he was dealing with other traffic. That was commitment. Get it down the inside, place the car, give Jeff nowhere to go with it.
That had a certain lion and a gazelle feeling to it. Just a matter of when.
It smacked of inevitability, that's for sure. George Kurtz from the back of the GT3 field to the front, and this is how he got it done.
And that was more what we've seen of George Kurtz this year. Those sort of moves, that decisiveness, that confidence. Just commit, get it down the inside, know where you need to place the car and get the job done.
And what a car. A descendant of the great 300 SLR Roadsters back in the 60s. Just a wonderful car. That car was known for its great handling and balance and power and so forth. And I think the same is true of this Mercedes AMG GT3.
It has that reputation, doesn't it, Cal?
It really does. I think it just, it's every track you go to is competitive. It's not like it's on and off in terms of if you're going to have a success on a particular weekend. It just really seems to tick all of the boxes. Doesn't excel in any one, but is strong in all of them compared to the other manufacturers out there. And particularly when you get a top-notch team like Riley tweaking on the knobs and making it a little bit quicker. It's a potent combination.
This is Schultes coming through the GT4 battle.
Go in line for yet another podium. Admittedly, the GT3 field has shrunk somewhat.
West has given up a big chunk of time there, letting that traffic through. Almost fell asleep there and allowed Seth Lucas to dive down the inside. He's got to get back into the groove here quickly.
He does.
He lost a ton of time with that little exchange.
Should also note Gray Newell He's now only 2.5 seconds behind Jason Bell for third. And the points differential between third and fourth, should Jason lose that spot, it's not huge, just a couple points. But if Schwest was to lose the lead here, drop back to second and finish there, 7-point swing in a championship that Ross knows he needs every point if he's going to be in contention come tomorrow.
Yeah, it's huge.
Come Sunday, excuse me, off day tomorrow.
Jason has definitely backed off the pace. He was within a couple of seconds of these leaders maybe 3-4 laps ago, and now he's some 8 seconds back. So Chippy's just gone into bring it home mode, but as you said, that's allowing Gray Newell to get ever closer to him with 9 minutes to go. There you can see them there in the backdrop. They're coming through turn 6.
In fact, Gray took 1.5 seconds out of Jason on that last lap, and now is right on the back door of Jason Bell. As you can see, this is for the final step of the podium in the GT4 class. Every point matters. This championship is so tight.
We project a 4-point lead for Jason Bell as they run. He'd lose 2 of that. He loses this position to Gray Newell, so it'll be only 2 points lead going into tomorrow if Schwest can hang on for the victory.
It's a big if, though, at this point.
See Jason there compromising his entry a little bit. Concerned that Gray may try and look down to the inside, so he's just going to keep backing down these lap times. Gray Newell just trying to get the run here. These GT4 cars aren't as affected by aero wash as the GT3 cars coming through that final corner. That's what makes for such great racing in this championship as we go to the battle up front once again. Schwest hanging on deep into turn 1. Whilst Lucas here, he's a little bit ahead of the game. Schwest is a little bit behind here in his line coming through these corners. Allows Seth to get down to the inside. It's tight. Schwest tries to defend. Nice job there. Good racing between these two. Sideways, trying to get the power down. They head to the chicane.
Yeah, it tightens up big time here at the chicane. Somehow they sort themselves out, get back to single file. But Schwest, the pressure has not dissipated. He's feeling it. Coming to the inside, he'll guard that into the braking zone. Lucas will have to go the long way around.
Great stuff from both drivers.
Watch for the crossover here. Beautifully handled there by Schwest. Really had to compromise his entry and his speed through apex, but he timed that perfectly to not open the door. But Lucas is looking. He's looking for a way through for his 3rd win of the year.
Just 16 years old from Ohio, Seth Lucas. Short on experience, high on speed. We've seen it since he made his series debut in GT America at Watkins Glen, where he swept the weekend on debut. Podiums in each of his first 3 races in the series, but coming off a very difficult weekend at Sebring, finishes of just 8th and 6th.
Schwest's racecraft has been superb, and in the backdrop you see Newell getting ever closer to Jason Bell, our championship leader.
Under 7 minutes to go. The shadows growing long across the front straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Should note, Jason Daskalos has had to come to the pit lane. Was running 4th in class at the time. Lucas took a peek, but Schwest slams the door.
Positioned his car beautifully to keep the Toyota behind him.
He's doing an awesome job. We've already seen that Lucas doesn't want to force it, do you know what I mean? He's trying to make it clean, a clean pass here, so he's not getting so aggressive, and that also builds the confidence of the driver who's got the lead and defending. He realized that he's not going to get his elbows out, or he certainly hasn't displayed that just yet. Does that get ramped up here in the last 5 minutes, last few laps of this race?
Oh, and a battle breaking out in the background, too. Gray Newell had a big head of steam coming out of the chicane. Schwest, the rear end sliding around on his Aston, that Supra. It looks edgy, too. Deep into this run on these Pirelli tires, and these two thrashing their GT4 cars. Less than 6 minutes to go.
Almost looks like Schwest has got a bit of understeer, and that develops into just switching the rear end around on him as he finishes off the corners. So struggling for grip here, struggling for balance, and trying to maintain the lead and keep his championship hopes alive heading to Sunday.
How about the New Orleans native? Oh, that was close to the background. I just saw Newell took a lunge. It looked like Bell held him off. But Ross Schwest, under pressure, absorbing that pressure for the better part of 15 minutes. But he still has to hang on for another 5.
He had a great launch off turn 14 to open a gap. It looks like maybe Jason Bell is doing the same thing to Gray Newell.
Aston Martin looking very strong. 3 of the top 4 are that Aston Martin Vantage platform, including these 2, 3rd and 4th.
Could be a decisive moment in this championship year for Jason Bell to hang on to this position. Dig deep, Jason. See if you can hold off Gray. You need these couple of points here.
And for Gray, this is huge for him, for his confidence getting back on the horse. A massive accident that saw him taken to the hospital at Road America a few months ago. Sat out at Sebring, but he's back on the horse now. Up the inside, down Holman Boulevard. Gray Newell late on the brakes. Doesn't get it wound down in time. Can Bell cross him over?
Beautiful job there by Jason Bell. Just timed that perfectly. That is really nice, smart driving there. Forced Gray to go deep, 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 really offline on the dirty part of the racetrack. Compromised his radius through the corner and just cleanly overtook him on the exit.
Rob Holland has dropped down to 9th. Uretsky still 10th, just 2 and 1 point respectively for those 2 coming out of this race. That will effectively remove them from really being in close contention for the championship. Bell will still be in the mix as they run, but he's scrapping for every point he can get here late in the running.
Yeah, it looks like the championship as they run, and certainly going into Sunday will be between Schwest and Bell unless they have a disaster and open up the door for someone to come from a long way back. But we've still got a few minutes left on the board here. Anything can happen.
Well, you think about that. Sorry, Bob. And for Schwest, he knows how important the win is, but if he fights too hard, if he spins, if there's contact, that's the disaster you're alluding to. It's a very tight rope to walk for Ross Schwest in this moment.
2 laps to go next time by, perhaps.
Coming down to the wire, that's for sure. It just depends on where the overall leader is. And of course, he's George Kurtz, who's pulled out an 8-second lead over Jeff Burton.
Lucas was deep on the brakes there, closed that gap, didn't run over the top of Schwest. Schwest is looking really poised here if he can keep it together, but the pressure's going to ramp up. And let's not forget, he's on the verge of his first win of this championship season, so that adds to the pressure and the big picture of the championship. Everything is magnified right now.
Into turn 12, diving back into the infield. Lucas as close as he's been.
He surprised him. He looks to the inside. That's going to cost him.
Hurts the momentum through 13 and up through 14. That crucial run back up onto the front stretch.
There'll be 2 laps to go, Bob. To your point. Going to get back with enough time to get back around and still have some time on the board. They'll see white flag next time by, not this time. Good news for Schwest, bad news for, good news for Lucas, bad news for Schwest that there are 2 more laps to hang on.
Now, Ross Schwest may not have been in this position much in his racing career, but this is a top-line athlete, Ross Schwest. He was the 1998 and 1999 All-State selection in Louisiana for high school basketball, the all-time leader at his high school in steals and assists, and second in scoring. You know, he's had the ball in his hands in crucial moments, played Division I basketball after his high school career, now trying to channel some of that experience here into the race car, trying to hold on for his first win of the season. Meanwhile, Jason Bell doing the same, except it's for the 3rd spot. Gray Newell takes a peek.
Looks down to the inside.
Got it.
He's going to try and do a cut and paste here for Jason Bell. Once again, just Gray overcommits. Didn't quite control that. Didn't need to go in that deep. Jason had given him that inside lane. Just slow it way down. Just hold Jason out there and seal the deal. You don't need to roll speed through at that point.
Yeah, the turn will do it for you.
That breaks off. For now, the fight for 3rd. Coming to the white flag. Can Ross Schwest hold off the young Charger? Seth Lucas, he's got some breathing room this time. Out of turn 14, coming to the Art of Bricks.
Final lap is for the overall leader. That's SRO 3 leader, George Kurtz. So 1 more lap for these GT4 runners.
His gap is up to nearly 15 seconds over Jeff Burton.
From the back of the pack to the front, George Kurtz sprinting away, but a great battle on our hands in GT4. We'll keep tabs on it in just a moment. But George Kurtz just a couple of corners away from a 9th win on the season. The champion-elect in GT America, powered by AWS in the GT3 class, up onto the front stretch, and George Kurtz wins at Indianapolis from the back of the field to the front. He takes the checkered flag.
Great drive He had to work hard for it, get into his rhythm, but boy, when he's in that zone, he is tough to beat. Meanwhile, up front in GT4, Schwester's hanging on, just half a lap to go.
For the final time through turns 8, 9, then this right-hander at turn 10. Seth Lucas is close. He'll have 2 chances at turn 12 and at turn 13. He's been able to get alongside on a couple of occasions, but Schwest has parried every thrust that Lucas has sent his way.
Yeah, just a beautiful job. Going to take a desperate move here by Lucas. Can he look to the inside in 13? No, he gives it up. Schwest should be on his way.
Ross Schwest, he needed every point he could get. Coming into this weekend, 4th in points. He comes out of the final corner, just a few hundred yards to go. Lucas, for all his might, giving it everything he can. He gets in the grass. He comes up short. Ross Schwest picks up a dramatic win. His first of the season for the Schwest Povaledo Racing team. Here comes Gray Newell closing in, but it looks like Jason Bell holds him off and claims 3rd place in the second to last race of the GT America season.
Wow, that save by Seth Lucas was something. It's a real corner when you come on that front straightaway late in the going with a little bit of tire degradation.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I wondered if his tires had given up and surprised him there coming up off of 14.
As has so often been the case this year. CrowdStrike fastest lap to the CrowdStrike car, George Kurtz, and with that, should be on pole tomorrow, barring any kind of scrutineering mishaps that we saw after qualifying today, as fast lap of race 1 sets the grid for race 2. I keep saying tomorrow, that's actually coming up on Sunday. Of course, the Indy 8 Hour on the docket tomorrow. Here are the provisional results. George Kurtz, Jeff Burton, Mirko Schultes. That is the podium for the SRO 3 and or GT3 class. CJ Moses, a 4th overall finish. But what a battle, Calvin, in GT4. Schwest knew exactly what he needed to do today, and he went to great lengths to make sure it happened.
Beautiful racecraft. I mean, it was a great little battle with he and Seth Lucas, and he just hung on, placed the car in exactly the right lines on the racetrack to protect that lead. I think he's got a 4-point deficit going into tomorrow over Jason Bell, so lots to do in the final race day. But and I believe Gray Newell may have had fast lap in GT4. He may start from the pole in that category.
It's a big deal for young Gray Newell, who gave his Aston a great run from 11th to 4th. And only some stout defense from Jason Bell deprived Gray Newell of a class podium. Here is George Kurtz picking up a win, the first of what he hopes are many race wins. Could be as many as 3 this weekend, of course, with another GT America race to come, and seeking a win in class. He's done it before at the Indianapolis 8 Hour, and more importantly, a Pro-Am championship in Fanatec GT.
Yeah, any win at Indy is pretty special, so he'll be pumped.
He will. Can't wait to hear from him. Greg Gill, Series CEO, down to congratulate George Kurtz, whole CrowdStrike Racing crew with Riley Motorsports. Let's hear from the man himself now. Amanda, you're with George.
Oh, and look at the smile already. And George, you go back to starting from the back of the grid all the way to the front. Do you almost welcome these moments to do this?
Well, it's a little easier in the front, but we had a lot of fun. The pressure wasn't on, after winning the championship. So I just wanted to have fun and just clear the traffic. And, those are some good laps you remember over time.
Well done, George.
Thank you.
Big smile on his face, and why not? Coming from the back to the front, a 9th win, a chance for 10 on the season tomorrow.
Yeah, and then we see that decisive move for the lead around Jeff Burton there down in the brake zone for turn 12. And he started to find his groove there halfway through. I thought he was struggling a bit to really feel it in the early parts of this race, but at the end, pretty dominant win once again.
There he is, crossing the yard of bricks. Lone GT2 car in the field. CJ Moses drove that thing to a 4th place overall result, Amanda.
Well, CJ, 4th place overall. Well done. The lone GT2 car. But how fun is it driving this machine around Indianapolis?
It's a blast. The long straightaways play to its extra horsepower. GMG has set up a perfect car for this track. Was able to basically go out and run, the whole race in qualifying mode. Just ran qualifying laps after qualifying laps. Tires fell away just a little bit at the end, but other than that, it was great.
Great to see you again.
Great to see you as well. Thank you.
Very enthusiastic racer, CJ Moses. Club racer for many years, ran at the runoffs, Chance to drive one of the coolest cars on the grounds in that Audi for the GMG Racing team. Great result, 4th overall.
Yeah, really solid run for CJ. He loves his racing, and that GT2 car is a bit of a brute to handle through the twisty stuff.
Let's hear from Ross West. What a great win, his first of the season.
And getting a congratulations from his team. And Ross, you've had consistency all year. You become the 10th different winner in GT4 this season with that win. The competition in this class, how will this win play to this championship now?
Well, you know, I guess the first race of the season, I had that win, and I said, when I had that win, I said it would be a lot of parity, and the win was, you know, taken away from me. But, yeah, it feels good to be back in the winner's circle, and, you know, Aaron Poblito did great. The guys did great, so it feels amazing. The talent level of drivers is just amazing, so I'm not surprised they've had so many winners.
Well, to the spoil of all of us, this will come down to tomorrow, guys.
Can't wait for it. Shaping up to be a great end to the season. Ross West, what a great drive from him to be under pressure basically the entire second half of that race. Side by side in a number of instances, and never did he crack under all the pressure Seth Lucas threw his way.
No, he was forceful when he needed to be without getting his arms out and, you know, really getting into any argy-bargy, and avoided the contact, which may have cut down a tire or something, but he's kept that championship hope alive. Big, big day coming up.
There are highlights from the first of 2 GT America powered by AWS races this year. It's brought out a yellow early in the going. Frantic moments for Kyle Washington, who started on the outside of the front row. When we got going again, huge crash here and a huge impact, not just between the 2 cars, but for the points.
Yeah, Adelson very much in the thick of things. Suddenly he gets taken out. The drama here for Noble. His car suddenly switches off, gets back under power eventually.
This was a great duel for the lead in GT4 with so much hanging in the balance. How about 2nd overall sweeping through in the middle of that whole thing? He must have been the leader overall, actually, because here comes George Kurtz. This is how he got to the front to secure his 9th win of the season. Jeff Burton settles for 2nd, but a great result for the Riley Motorsports crew from the back to the front. And a good duel. Seth Lucas left it all out there, Calvin. This was a heart-in-the-throat moment coming to the checkers.
Yeah, a little twitchy there. Just pitched it a little bit, lost the rear end, and recovered nicely.
That he did. Will take a 2nd place, his 4th podium on the season in a relatively short span of time. Well, fun race today. Wonder what Sunday has in store. Hope you join us for that. Pole shootout for the Indy 8 Hour coming up here in just a few moments from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.